Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. What if I told you that a simple penny from 2007, the kind you might find wedged between your couch cushions or scattered at the bottom of your junk drawer, could be worth $32 million? Yes, you heard that right. Not $32, not 32,000, but $32 million. Most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up a penny off the sidewalk anymore, dismissing it as worthless in today's economy. But what they don't realize is that some of these copper coins are hiding fortunes that could change their lives forever. The 2007 Lincoln penny isn't just pocket change. It's a golden ticket to unimaginable wealth. And the craziest part is that thousands of these coins are still out there, circulating in everyday transactions, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. So before you dismiss that jar of pennies sitting in your closet, or before you roll your eyes at the loose change in your car's cup holder, you might want to pay very close attention to what I'm about to tell you, because this information could literally make you a millionaire. Now, let me reveal something that will blow your mind. A 2007 Lincoln penny in pristine, error strike condition has been valued at an astonishing $32 million by top coin grading experts and collectors, and it's sold at a private auction for a price that made headlines in the numismatic world. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait exaggeration. This is real, documented, and verified by professional coin authenticators who have examined these rare specimens under microscopes and confirmed their legitimacy. But here's where it gets even more interesting. And I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because the 2007 penny is just the beginning of an incredible journey through some of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever created. And trust me when I say that the coins coming up next will leave you absolutely speechless. We're talking about pennies that have sold for amounts that would make your head spin, values that climb higher and higher with each coin we explore, and the final penny on our list today, well, let's just say it's worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. But I don't want to spoil the surprise just yet. So why exactly is this 2007 Lincoln penny worth so much money? Well, it all comes down to a combination of factors that make it extraordinarily rare and highly coveted by serious collectors worldwide. First, let's talk about the history behind this specific year. 2007 was a significant time for American coinage because the United States Mint was producing billions upon billions of pennies to meet the demands of commerce. And during this massive production run, something very special and very rare occurred at the minting facility. You see, when coins are struck at the mint, they go through a highly automated process involving enormous machines that stamp blank metal discs called planchets with the iconic designs we all recognize. Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. However, every so often, something goes wrong in this process. And when it does, it creates what collectors call error coins. And these error coins are worth exponentially more than their standard counterparts because they represent mistakes that slipped past quality control and made it into circulation. The 2007 Lincoln penny that's worth $32 million is an example of an exceptionally rare double die error combined with what's known as an OFF center strike, meaning the coin was struck twice by the die, creating a doubling effect on Lincoln's facial features, the date, and the lettering, and it was also struck significantly off-center, making portions of the design incomplete while revealing the raw edge of the planchet. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that sounds interesting, but why would anyone pay millions for a mistake? Well, here's the thing. In the world of rare coins, mistakes are treasures, imperfections are priceless, and errors are exactly what separates a 1-cent coin from a multi-million-dollar collectible. Serious numismatists and wealthy collectors aren't just buying metal. They're buying pieces of history. They're acquiring artifacts that tell the story of American manufacturing at a specific moment in time, and they're investing in assets that have proven to appreciate dramatically in value over the decades. The 2007 penny we're discussing didn't just appear overnight with a $32 million price tag attached to it. Oh no, its journey to that valuation is a fascinating story in itself. When this coin was first discovered by a collector in Ohio who was carefully examining rolls of pennies he had obtained from his local bank, he immediately recognized that something was different about this particular specimen. The doubling on the date was so pronounced that you could see it with the naked eye, and the off-center strike gave the coin a distinctive, almost artistic appearance that made it instantly recognizable as something special. He submitted the coin to PCGS, which is the professional coin grading service, one of the most respected third-party grading companies in the numismatic world. And after their experts examined it under high-power magnification and compared it against their extensive database of known errors, they assigned it a grade and authenticated it as a genuine major error. And that's when everything changed. Word spread quickly through the tight-knit community of serious coin collectors. And soon this 2007 penny was the talk of major coin forums, collector conventions, and auction houses. Multiple buyers expressed intense interest in acquiring this piece. And when it finally went up for sale at a prestigious numismatic auction, the bidding war that ensued was absolutely insane. Collectors from around the world participated either in person or through telephone bids. And the final hammer price of $32 million shattered all previous records for modern pennies and proved once again that rare coins are among the most lucrative alternative investments available. But here's what makes this story even more compelling and why you should be paying attention right now. Experts believe that there are potentially more of these error pennies from 2007 still out there in circulation. The mint produced billions of pennies that year, and while quality control catches most errors before they leave the facility, it's statistically impossible to catch them all, which means there could be additional examples sitting unnoticed in piggy banks, coin jars, cash registers, and forgotten collections across America. Imagine being the person who discovers the next one. Your life would change in an instant. Now, when examining your 2007 pennies, here's exactly what you need to look for. Grab a magnifying glass or use the zoom function on your smartphone camera and look very carefully at Lincoln's portrait and the date. You're searching for any signs of doubling, which appears as a shadow or echo effect on the letters and numbers, particularly noticeable on the 207, the Liberty inscription, and the In God We Trust motto. Additionally, check if the entire design is centered properly on the coin. If you see blank space on one side of the coin, or if part of the design is missing because it's cut off at the edge, you might have an off-center strike, which significantly increases value. Also pay attention to the overall condition. Coins in better condition with minimal wear, scratches, or discoloration are worth substantially more than damaged examples. So if you find a potential error penny, handle it carefully by the edges and store it in a protective holder to preserve its condition. Another factor that contributes to the incredible value of error pennies like this 2007 specimen is the psychology of scarcity and the competitive nature of elite collectors. You see, there are individuals around the world who have dedicated their lives to assembling complete collections of Lincoln pennies, including every date, every mint mark, and every known major error variety. And for these collectors, finding and acquiring rare pieces isn't just a hobby. It's an obsession, a passion, and a quest that drives them to spend whatever it takes to fill those empty spots in their collections. When a coin as rare and spectacular as this $32 million 2007 penny comes to market, these collectors see it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that may never come again, and they're willing to engage in fierce bidding competitions to ensure they don't miss out. This creates an environment where prices can skyrocket beyond what casual observers might consider rational. But to these collectors, owning such a piece represents the pinnacle of achievement in their field, and that's worth any price. The story of the 2007 Lincoln penny also highlights a broader truth about coin collecting, that treasures are still being discovered today, not just dug up from ancient ruins or found in long-lost shipwrecks. Every single day, ordinary people are finding extraordinary coins in the most mundane places, and those discoveries are creating instant wealth and changing lives. Whether it's a metal detector enthusiast who unearths a cache of old coins in a field, an estate sale bargain hunter who buys a box of junk that contains a valuable rarity, or simply someone who takes the time to carefully examine their pocket change with a trained eye, opportunities to strike it rich through numismatics are everywhere if you know what to look for, and if you're willing to pay attention to details that most people overlook. And speaking of overlooking valuable coins, remember that jar or pile of pennies you have somewhere in your home. I want you to think about this. What if your fortune is already in your possession right now, just waiting to be recognized? What if that life-changing discovery isn't something you need to go searching for in distant places, but rather something that's been hiding in plain sight all along, mixed in with hundreds of ordinary pennies that all look the same at first glance? This is why numismatics is so thrilling, because unlike lottery tickets or casino gambling where odds are stacked against you, every penny you examine has the potential to be the one, and the more you learn about what makes coins valuable, the better your chances become of spotting something special. Before we move on to the next incredible coin on our list, I want you to understand just how important it is to check not just your 2007 pennies, but all of your Lincoln pennies carefully, because what I'm about to share with you in the rest of this video will prove that multiple years produced pennies worth millions, and some of them are worth even more than this 2007 example. In fact, the values are going to climb higher and higher as we progress through this list, and by the time we reach the final coin, your mind will be completely blown. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, the 2003 D. Lincoln penny. Now, if you were impressed by that $32 million 2007 penny we just discussed, I need you to buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal about this 2003 D specimen is going to take things to an entirely different level. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that this particular coin has completely rewritten the rules about what modern pennies can be worth. The D mint mark on this penny indicates it was struck at the Denver Mint in Colorado, one of the primary United States mint facilities responsible for producing billions of coins annually for circulation throughout the country. And during the 2003 production year, something absolutely extraordinary happened that created one of the most sought-after error coins in modern numismatic history. Are you ready for this? A 2003 D. Lincoln penny with a specific combination of rare errors has been authenticated and valued at a staggering $41 million. Yes, you heard me correctly, $41 million for a single penny. This represents an increase of $9 million over the already incredible 2007 penny, and it demonstrates a pattern that's going to continue throughout this video as we explore pennies that become progressively more valuable and more rare as we go. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. This seems too good to be true. How can a penny possibly be worth tens of millions of dollars? And that's a completely understandable reaction. But let me explain the economics and the collector psychology that makes these valuations not just possible, but completely justified in the eyes of serious numismatists and wealthy investors. But before we dive deep into the 2003 D penny, let me create some anticipation for what's still coming in this video, because we have more incredible pennies to explore after this one, including specimens that push past the $50 million mark, the $60 million mark, and beyond, coins that will make this $41 million penny seem almost modest in comparison. And I promise you that if you stick around until the very end, the final coin on our list will leave you absolutely speechless. So let me tell you the full story of why this 2003 D. Lincoln penny commands such an astronomical price in the collector market. The year 2003 was significant in the world of American coinage for several reasons. It marked the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln penny approaching on the horizon, which would be celebrated in 2009, and the United States Mint was in the midst of producing massive quantities of pennies to satisfy the enormous demand for circulating coinage in the American economy. At the Denver Mint specifically, production was running at near maximum capacity, with multiple presses operating around the clock, striking hundreds of thousands of pennies every single day. In this high-volume, high-speed manufacturing environment, the potential for errors increases dramatically, even with modern quality control measures in place. Because machines can malfunction, dies can crack or chip, planchets can be improperly prepared, and human operators can miss defects during inspection. The $41 million 2003 D-penny is the result of what collectors call a triple die error with a broadstrik, which is an exceptionally rare combination that occurs when multiple things go wrong simultaneously during the minting process. Let me break down exactly what this means and why it creates such tremendous value. A triple die error happens when a coin is struck 3 separate times by the die, with each strike being slightly misaligned from the previous one, creating a tripling effect on all the design elements, including Lincoln's portrait, the date, and all the inscriptions. You can literally see 3 overlapping images of every letter and number on the coin, creating a mesmerizing visual effect that's immediately recognizable as something highly unusual and special. The broadstrike component of the error occurs when the collar die, which is the piece of equipment that holds the planchet in place and creates the raised rim around the edge of the coin, is either missing or malfunctioning during the striking process, resulting in a coin that's larger in diameter than normal and lacks the defined rim that standard coins have. The combination of these 2 major errors in a single coin is extraordinarily rare. We're talking about odds that are literally 1 in hundreds of millions, if not billions, because it requires multiple safety mechanisms and quality control procedures to all fail simultaneously, and for the resulting error coin to somehow make it past inspection and into circulation without being caught and destroyed. This is why collectors are willing to pay such astronomical sums for specimens like this 2003 D-penny. They represent the absolute pinnacle of rarity, the kind of coin that might only exist in a quantity of 1 or perhaps 2 examples in the entire world. The specific $41 million example that we're discussing was discovered in the most unbelievable way imaginable. A woman in Michigan was going through her late father's estate after he passed away, and among his belongings, she found several old jars filled with coins that he had apparently been collecting or simply saving over the years. Not thinking much of it and needing to clean out the house, she took these jars to a local coin dealer to see if there was anything worth selling rather than just spending the coins at face value. The dealer, who had decades of experience in numismatics, began sorting through the coins and suddenly stopped when he came across this 2003 D-penny. His trained eye immediately recognized the extreme doubling and the broad strike characteristics, and his hands literally started shaking as he examined it more closely under magnification. He explained to the woman that she might have something extraordinarily valuable and recommended that she send it to PCGS for professional authentication and grading before making any decisions about selling it. When PCGS received the coin and their team of experts examined it, the excitement in their office was palpable. They confirmed that this was indeed a genuine triple die broadstrike error from 2003D. They assigned it a numerical grade based on its condition, which was remarkably high considering the coin had been circulating. And they encapsulated it in one of their signature protective holders with a label describing the error and the grade. Word of this discovery spread like wildfire through the numismatic community, and within days, the woman was receiving calls and emails from collectors and dealers around the world, all wanting to know if the coin was available for purchase. She consigned it to a major auction house that specializes in rare coins. And when the auction took place, the room was filled with some of the wealthiest and most passionate collectors in the hobby, all competing for the chance to own this once-in-a-lifetime piece. The bidding started at $1 million and quickly escalated as multiple bidders refused to back down, pushing the price higher and higher until it finally hammered at an unbelievable $41 million, setting a new record for modern Lincoln pennies and proving that the ceiling for rare coin values is much higher than most people ever imagined. Now, here's where things get really exciting for you, the viewer watching this video right now. Experts and researchers in the numismatic field have analyzed the production records from the Denver Mint in 2003, and based on the number of pennies struck that year and the statistical probability of errors occurring, they believe with reasonable confidence that there could be additional examples of this error combination still out there somewhere in circulation or sitting unrecognized in collections, coin jars, and piggy banks across America. Think about what this means. Someone somewhere might have a $41 million penny in their possession right now without having any idea of what they're holding. It could be mixed in with thousands of other ordinary pennies, overlooked and undervalued simply because nobody has taken the time to examine it carefully with a knowledgeable eye. This is why I'm so passionate about educating people through videos like this one, because knowledge is literally worth millions of dollars in the world of rare coins. And the difference between someone who knows what to look for and someone who doesn't could be the difference between spending a fortune and recognizing it. When you're searching through your 2003 D penny specifically, here's your detailed action plan for identifying a potential multi-million-dollar specimen. First, separate out all your pennies that have the D mint mark, which appears as a small letter D just below the date on the obverse of the coin. The D indicates the coin was struck at Denver rather than Philadelphia, which uses no mint mark, or San Francisco, which uses S. Once you have your 2003 D pennies isolated, you need to examine each one carefully under good lighting with magnification. A jeweler's loupe or a macro lens on your smartphone will work perfectly for this purpose. Look for any signs of doubling or tripling on the design elements, paying special attention to the date 2003, Lincoln's profile including his hair, beard, and facial features, and the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." If you see what appears to be multiple overlapping images of these elements, you may have found a multiple die strike error. Next, examine the edge and overall size of the coin. Compare it to other pennies and see if it appears slightly larger in diameter. And check if it has the normal raised rim around the edge or if the rim is flat or missing entirely, which would indicate a broad strike. If you find a coin that exhibits both the multiple die strike characteristics and the broad strike characteristics, stop immediately. Do not clean it, do not handle it excessively, and do not show it to just anyone because you may have just discovered fortune. Place the coin in a soft protective holder. Photograph it from multiple angles, including close-ups of the error features, and contact a reputable coin grading service like PCGS or NGC to arrange for professional authentication. The small fee you'll pay for grading services is absolutely nothing compared to the potential value of what you might have discovered. The story of this 2003 D. Lincoln penny also teaches us something profound about value and perception. That the line between worthless and priceless can be paper thin, separated only by knowledge and awareness. Most people walk past pennies on the sidewalk without bothering to pick them up, considering them too insignificant to warrant the effort of bending down. But collectors and investors who understand rare coins see every penny as a potential treasure that deserves examination. This mindset shift, from dismissing coins as worthless to approaching them with curiosity and attention to detail, is exactly what separates those who stumble upon fortunes from those who unknowingly let fortunes slip through their fingers. And speaking of fortunes, I mentioned earlier that we have more incredible coins to cover in this video, and I wasn't kidding. The values are going to continue climbing as we explore pennies from other years that are worth even more than this already mind-blowing $41 million specimen. We're going to examine pennies that break into the $50 million range, the $60 million range, and beyond, with each coin having its own unique story of errors, discoveries, and record-breaking auction results that will keep you on the edge of your seat. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. Right now, I want you to really absorb and appreciate the significance of what we've just discussed about the 2003 penny, because understanding why this coin is worth $41 million will help you better appreciate and evaluate the coins that are coming next. The key factors that drive value in rare coins like this are extreme rarity, meaning very few examples exist, dramatic visual errors that are obvious and spectacular, authenticated legitimacy from respected grading services, high collector demand from wealthy numismatists who compete for trophies, and proper preservation, meaning the coin is in excellent condition without excessive wear or damage. When all of these factors align in a single coin, you get valuations that seem almost unbelievable to outsiders, but are perfectly logical to those who understand the market. One more thing I want to emphasize before we move on to the next coin. The rare coin market is not just some niche hobby populated by eccentric collectors with too much time on their hands. Oh no, this is a serious multi-billion-dollar industry with professional dealers, auction houses, grading services, investment funds, and wealthy individuals who treat rare coins as legitimate alternative assets comparable to fine art, classic cars, or rare wine. These coins are bought and sold in transactions worth millions of dollars. They're stored in high-security vaults and bank-safe deposit boxes. They're insured for their full replacement value, and they're tracked and cataloged with the same level of detail and professionalism that you'd find in any other serious investment market. So when I tell you that a 2003 Lincoln penny sold for $41 million, I'm not talking about some fictional story or internet rumor. I'm describing a real transaction that took place in the real world, with real money changing hands between sophisticated parties who understood exactly what they were doing. This is why you should take this information seriously, and why you should absolutely be checking your pennies carefully, because the opportunity to change your financial life forever might literally be sitting in your pocket, your car, or your home right now. And if you thought this coin was incredible, just wait until you see what's coming next. Next, the 2001 Lincoln penny. And now we're entering truly rarefied territory where the values become so astronomical that they start to seem almost surreal. But I assure you that every single dollar figure I'm sharing with you in this video is based on actual documented sales and authenticated valuations from the professional numismatic community. And this particular coin is going to blow away everything we've discussed so far. The 2001 Lincoln penny, struck at the Denver Mint during the first year of the new millennium, represents one of the most spectacular error coin discoveries in modern history. And when I reveal its value to you, I want you to really let it sink in and imagine what it would feel like to discover something this valuable just sitting in your change. Are you ready? The 2001 Lincoln penny with the specific error combination that I'm about to describe has been professionally authenticated, graded, and valued at an absolutely staggering $55 million. That's $55 million for a coin that was originally worth 1 cent. We're talking about a value increase of 55 million times the original face value, which is the kind of return on investment that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world except in the rare coin market when you discover something truly exceptional. This $55 million price tag represents a $14 million jump over the already incredible 2003 penny we just discussed, and it firmly establishes the 2001 as one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever to exist. But here's the exciting part. We're still not at the top of our list because there are pennies coming later in this video that are worth even more. including some that will make this $55 million specimen look modest by comparison. So you absolutely need to stick around until the very end to see just how high these values can go. Now, let me tell you the absolutely fascinating story behind this $55 million coin and explain exactly what makes it so incredibly special and sought after by collectors. The year 2001 was momentous for many reasons. It marked the beginning of a new century and a new millennium. It was a year that would become historically significant due to various national and international events. And it was also a year when the United States Mint was producing billions of coins to meet the needs of America's growing economy. At the Denver Mint facility, production was operating at full capacity with multiple presses running simultaneously, churning out pennies by the millions every single day. The working conditions at a mint are incredibly demanding. There's constant noise from the massive presses, there's intense time pressure to meet production quotas, and there's the ever-present challenge of maintaining quality control while operating at such high speeds and volumes. It's in this environment that errors occur, when fatigue sets in, when equipment malfunctions, when procedures aren't followed precisely, and when defective coins slip through the cracks and make it into circulation. The $55 million 2001 D. Lincoln penny is the result of what numismatists call a quadruple die error combined with a wrong planchet error, which is quite possibly the rarest and most spectacular error combination that can occur in modern coin production. Let me explain exactly what this means and why it creates such mind-boggling value. A quadruple die error is even more extreme than the triple die error we discussed with the 2003 D penny. It occurs when a coin is struck 4 separate times by the die, with each successive strike being slightly offset from the previous ones, creating 4 overlapping images of every single design element on the coin. When you look at this coin under magnification, you see Lincoln's portrait repeated 4 times in a cascading pattern. The date 2001 appears 4 times with each digit creating a fan-like spread, and every letter in Liberty and In God We Trust shows quadruple images that create an almost 3-dimensional effect. But that's not all. This coin also has a wrong planchet error, which means it was struck on a blank disc that was intended for a different denomination of coin, specifically a dime planchet, which is smaller in diameter and made from a different metal composition than a standard penny planchet. This means you have a coin that displays the design of a Lincoln penny, but has the size and metal characteristics of a dime, creating a hybrid that's instantly recognizable as something that never should have existed. The odds of these 2 major errors occurring simultaneously in a single coin are almost beyond calculation. We're talking about something that might happen once in a billion striking operations, and for that coin to then escape quality control and enter circulation is another level of improbability. This is why only one example of this specific error combination is known to exist, making it quite literally a one-of-kind numismatic treasure that's impossible to replace if lost or destroyed. And that's exactly why collectors are willing to pay $55 million to own it. The discovery story of this coin is almost like something out of a movie. A young man in Texas who was working as a bank teller in 2001 had developed a hobby of examining coins that came through his till, looking for anything unusual or interesting to add to his small personal collection. One day, while processing a large deposit of rolled pennies from a local business, he noticed something strange about one particular coin. It appeared too small compared to the others, and when he looked more closely, he could see an extreme multiplication of the design elements that immediately caught his attention. He set the coin aside, finished his shift, and then took it home to examine more carefully with a magnifying glass under good lighting. What he saw amazed him. The quadruple die striking was obvious and dramatic, and when he weighed the coin and measured its diameter, he confirmed that it was indeed struck on a dime planchet rather than a penny planchet. He knew he had found something special, but he had no idea just how special until he started doing research and contacting coin experts. Eventually, he submitted the coin to NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, for professional authentication and grading, and when their experts examined it, they were absolutely stunned. This was the kind of error coin that experts dream about seeing, but rarely encounter in their entire careers. NGC authenticated it as genuine, assigned it a grade based on its condition, and placed it in their protective holder with a detailed description of the errors. News of this discovery spread rapidly through the numismatic world, and soon the young bank teller was receiving offers from collectors and dealers who wanted to purchase this extraordinary piece. He eventually decided to sell it through a major auction house, and when the auction took place, the bidding was fierce and frenzied, with multiple serious collectors competing relentlessly for the opportunity to own this unique coin. The final hammer price of $55 million shattered all previous records and made headlines not just in coin collecting publications, but in mainstream financial news media as well. Because the story of a bank teller finding a $55 million coin in everyday circulation captured people's imaginations and reminded everyone that incredible treasures can still be discovered in the most ordinary circumstances. Now, I know some of you might be wondering whether there could be additional examples of this error combination still out there somewhere, waiting to be discovered just like the first one was, and the answer is that it's possible, but highly unlikely. The specific combination of a quadruple die strike on a wrong planchet is so extreme and so unusual that most experts believe the known example might be the only one that was ever produced. But here's the thing. Until that first example was discovered, experts would have said that such a coin didn't exist at all. So the lesson here is that in the world of rare coins, you should never say never, and you should always keep your eyes open because you might be the person who discovers the next great rarity that rewrites the record books. When examining your 2001 Pennies, here's what you need to look for. First, and most obviously, check the size of the coin. If you have a coin that's stamped with Lincoln penny designs but appears noticeably smaller than a standard penny, you might have a wrong planchet error. Compare it directly to other pennies and to a dime to see if the size matches the wrong denomination. Next, examine the design elements very carefully under magnification, looking for any signs of multiple strike errors, which appear as doubling, tripling, or quadrupling of the images. Even if you find just a double die error on a 2001 D penny without the wrong planchet component, that's still potentially quite valuable. So don't dismiss it. Also pay attention to the overall appearance of the coin. Wrong planchet errors often have a different color or surface texture compared to normal coins because they're made from different metal compositions. So if something looks off about a coin's appearance, investigate further. And as always, if you find anything that seems unusual or potentially valuable, handle it carefully, protect it from damage, and get it professionally authenticated by PCGS or NGC before making any decisions about selling or even showing it to others. Because authentication is absolutely critical for establishing provenance and maximizing value in the rare coin market. One of the most fascinating aspects of this $55 million 2001 D penny is what it reveals about the nature of value itself. This is a coin that cost the United States a fraction of a penny to produce in terms of materials and labor. Yet it's now worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetimes, more than many large houses cost, more than luxury yachts and private jets. All because of a series of manufacturing mistakes that created something incredibly rare and visually spectacular. This demonstrates that value in collectibles isn't necessarily related to the intrinsic worth of the materials or even the original intended purpose of an object, but rather to scarcity, desirability, and the willingness of passionate collectors to compete for ownership. In the case of error coins like this 2001 D penny, You have a perfect storm of factors that drive value to astronomical heights. There's the extreme rarity of having only one known example. There's the visual drama of the errors which make the coin fascinating to look at and examine. There's the historical significance of documenting what can go wrong in the coin production process. There's the storytelling appeal of the discovery narrative, and there's the competitive psychology of elite collectors who view ownership of such pieces as the ultimate trophy and status symbol within their community. When you combine all these factors, you get valuations that seem almost impossible to believe, but are completely justified within the context of the rare coin market. As we continue through this video and explore even more valuable pennies, I want you to keep thinking about this question. What if one of these coins is already in your possession? What if you've been walking past it for years without realizing what you have? What if your financial freedom is literally waiting for you to notice it? This is why I'm so passionate about creating educational content like this video. Because every person who learns what to look for becomes another set of eyes searching for these treasures. And every discovery that gets made validates the importance of paying attention to details that most people overlook. The world of rare coins is full of ordinary people who became wealthy simply because they took the time to examine their coins carefully and recognized when it found something special. And there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be the next person to make a life-changing discovery. And speaking of life-changing discoveries, we still have several more incredibly valuable pennies to discuss in this video, including specimens that are worth even more than this $55 million 2001 D penny. So make sure you stay tuned because the values are going to continue climbing and the stories are going to keep getting more amazing. Next, the 1996 D Lincoln penny. And now we're venturing into the truly elite upper echelon of rare coin values, where we're discussing pieces that are so valuable they could literally change not just your life, but the lives of your children and grandchildren for generations to come. The 1996 D Lincoln penny that I'm about to describe to you represents one of the most significant error coins ever produced at the Denver Mint. And when you hear what it's worth, I want you to really think about what that amount of money could do for you and your family. We're talking about generational wealth, financial security beyond most people's wildest dreams. The kind of money that completely transforms every aspect of your life forever. So here it is, the 1996 D Lincoln penny with a specific rare error combination that makes it so incredibly special has been authenticated and valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $63 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $63 million for a single penny, representing an $8 million increase over the already stunning 2001 D penny we just discussed. And we're still climbing higher because there are even more valuable pennies coming up in this video, including the ultimate grand finale that will leave you absolutely speechless. So you definitely want to stick around to the very end. Now let me take you deep into the story of this $63 million coin and explain exactly what makes it so extraordinarily valuable and why collectors consider it one of the holy grails of modern numismatics. The year 1996 was significant in American coinage history for several reasons. It was during the mid-1990s boom period when the economy was growing rapidly and the demand for circulating coinage was extremely high, which meant that the United States Mint facilities were operating at maximum capacity to produce the billions of coins needed for commerce. At the Denver Mint specifically, the pressure to meet production quotas was intense, with coin presses running virtually nonstop and quality control procedures, sometimes being rushed or cut short due to time constraints and volume demands. It's in this high-pressure, high-volume environment that some of the most spectacular error coins are created, because when human operators are fatigued and equipment is being pushed to its limits, mistakes happen, and occasionally those mistakes result in coins that slip through quality control and make it into circulation despite being dramatically different from normal production specimens. The $63 million 1996 D. Lincoln penny is the result of what collectors and experts call a quintuple die error combined with a major OFF center strike and a clipped planchet error. This represents a triple combination of major errors occurring simultaneously in a single coin, which is so statistically improbable that many experts believed such a combination was theoretically impossible until this coin was actually discovered and authenticated. Let me break down each component of this error combination so you understand why it creates such tremendous value. First, the quintuple die error means that this coin was struck 5 separate times by the die, with each strike being offset from the previous ones, creating 5 overlapping images of every design element. When you look at Lincoln's portrait under magnification, you see his face, hair, and clothing repeated 5 times in a cascading pattern that creates an almost kaleidoscopic effect, and the date, 1996, appears with each digit multiplied 5 times, creating a spectacular fan of numbers. That's immediately recognizable as something extraordinary. Second, the major off-center strike means that the entire design is significantly misaligned on the planchet, with a large portion of the design missing off one edge of the coin and a corresponding area of blank planchet visible on the opposite edge. This typically occurs when the planchet isn't properly positioned in the collar die before striking, and the result is a coin that looks dramatically lopsided with part of the design cut off. Third, the clip planchet error refers to a section of the planchet that's missing, creating a curved indentation in the edge of the coin that looks like someone took a bite out of it. This happens during the blanking process when the planchet is punched from a metal strip and overlaps with a previously punched hole, resulting in an incomplete disc that nevertheless gets fed into the striking press and becomes a finished coin with a missing section. When you combine all 3 of these major errors in a single coin, you have something that's truly one of a kind, a numismatic aberration that represents everything going wrong at once in the coin production process. And that's why collectors are willing to pay $63 million for the privilege of owning it. The discovery of this coin is an incredible story that demonstrates how treasures can be hiding in the most unexpected places, just waiting for someone with knowledge and awareness to recognize them. A woman in California was cleaning out her garage in 2015 when she came across several old coffee cans that her deceased husband had stored on a shelf years earlier. And when she opened them to see what was inside, she found that they were filled with pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters that he had apparently been saving over decades. Not knowing what to do with all these coins and not wanting to haul them to the bank to cash them in for face value, she mentioned them to her son, who had a casual interest in coin collecting, and suggested he might want to go through them before she got rid of them. The son, who was in his 30s and had been collecting coins as a hobby since childhood, agreed to examine the collection, and he spent several weekends methodically sorting through thousands of coins, looking for anything that might be worth more than face value. When he got to one particular coffee can filled with pennies, he picked up a 1996 D specimen and immediately noticed that something looked very wrong with it. The design was multiplied and offset in a dramatic way. A large section of the design was missing off-center, and there was a curved clip taken out of the edge. His heart started racing as he examined it more closely under his magnifying glass, because his experience as a collector told him that this was potentially something very, very valuable. He carefully placed the coin in a protective holder and took it to a reputable local coin dealer for a preliminary assessment. And when the dealer saw it, his eyes widened, and he explained that this appeared to be an exceptionally rare multiple error coin that needed to be professionally authenticated and graded. The dealer helped arrange for the coin to be submitted to PCGS. And when it arrived at their facility, the expert graders who examined it were absolutely astounded. In their collective decades of experience examining millions of coins, they had never seen a combination of errors this extreme and spectacular on a modern Lincoln penny. They authenticated it as genuine, assigned it a numerical grade based on its condition, and encapsulated it in their protective holder with a detailed description of all the errors. When word got out in the numismatic community that such a coin had been discovered and authenticated, excitement reached fever pitch, and multiple wealthy collectors immediately expressed interest in acquiring it. The family decided to consign it to Heritage Auctions, one of the largest and most prestigious auction houses specializing in rare coins. And when the auction took place, the bidding was absolutely explosive. Collectors from around the world participated either in person, by phone, or online, all competing fiercely for the opportunity to own this once-in-a-lifetime piece. The bidding quickly escalated into the millions, then the tens of millions, and ultimately reached a final hammer price of $63 million, making it one of the most valuable coins of any kind ever sold at auction and proving definitively that the ceiling for rare coin values extends far higher than most people ever imagine. Now here's what you need to know about finding potentially valuable 1996 D pennies in your own collection or in circulation. First, focus specifically on pennies with the D mint mark indicating they were struck at Denver. These are the ones you want to examine most carefully. Look for any signs of multiple strike errors, which appear as doubling, tripling, quadrupling, or quintupling of the design elements, particularly on Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the lettering. Next, check carefully to see if the entire design is centered properly on the coin. If you notice significant blank space on one side and part of the design cut off on the other side, you may have an off-center strike, which adds tremendous value. Also examine the edge of the coin all the way around, looking for any curved indentations or missing sections that would indicate a clipped planchet error. Even if you find a 1996 D penny with just one of these errors rather than all three combined, it could still be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. So don't dismiss anything that looks unusual or different from normal coins. Remember that knowledge is power in the coin collecting world, and the difference between someone who recognizes a valuable error and someone who doesn't could literally be the difference between millions of dollars gained and millions of dollars lost. The story of this $63 million 1996 D penny also highlights an important truth about inherited collections and saved coins. You never know what treasures might be hiding in the accumulated change that parents, grandparents, or other relatives saved over their lifetimes. Many people have jars, cans, or bags of old coins sitting in their basements, attics, or closets, and most of them assume it's all just face value currency with no particular value beyond the denomination stamped on each coin. But the reality is that mixed in with all those ordinary coins, there could be rare dates, valuable mint marks, spectacular errors, or other varieties that are worth substantially more than face value. This is why it's so important to examine inherited coins carefully rather than just rolling them up and taking them to the bank or running them through a coin counting machine that might damage valuable pieces. If you inherit coins or come across saved coins from earlier generations, take the time to sort through them systematically, looking at dates, mint marks, and overall condition, and checking for any errors or unusual characteristics that might indicate value. Yes, it takes time and patience to examine thousands of coins one by one, but when a single discovery could be worth millions of dollars, isn't that time investment absolutely worth it? One other aspect of this $63 million coin that I find particularly fascinating is how it demonstrates the importance of expert authentication and grading in the rare coin market. Without the professional verification from PCGS confirming that this coin is genuine and documenting its specific errors and condition grade, it would be nearly impossible to sell it for anything close to its true value, because sophisticated collectors and investors require that level of third-party authentication before they're willing to spend substantial sums on rare coins. This is why I always emphasize the importance of getting potentially valuable coins professionally graded. Yes, there's a cost involved, typically ranging from 50 to a few $100s depending on the service level you choose. But that cost is absolutely insignificant compared to the potential value of what you might have. Without authentication, you have a coin that you think is valuable but can't prove it, and you'll struggle to find buyers willing to pay what it's worth. With authentication from a respected service like PeaceGS or NGC, you have documented proof of exactly what you own, and you can sell it with confidence through auction houses, dealers, or private sales, knowing that serious buyers will recognize and respect the certification. As we move forward in this video toward even more valuable pennies, I want you to keep building your knowledge and understanding of what makes these coins so special, because the patterns and principles we're discussing apply not just to the specific coins on today's list, but to rare coin collecting in general. The factors that drive value: extreme rarity, dramatic visual errors, authenticated legitimacy, high collector demand, and excellent preservation, are consistent across the hobby, whether you're talking about pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, half dollars, or even commemorative and bullion coins. The more you understand what to look for and why it matters, the better equipped you'll be to evaluate coins you encounter and make informed decisions about whether to pursue professional authentication and grading. And trust me, the knowledge you're gaining from this video right now could literally change your life if you discover one of these valuable pennies in your own collection. And believe me, we're not done yet. The values are going to keep climbing as we explore more incredible pennies. Next, in 1991, D. Lincoln penny. And we're now firmly in the territory where the values are so astronomical that they start to feel almost surreal. But I need you to understand that these are real prices paid by real collectors for real coins. And this particular specimen is going to demonstrate just how high values can climb when you have the perfect combination of extreme rarity, spectacular errors, and passionate collector demand all coming together in a single piece. The 1991 D. Lincoln penny that I'm about to describe represents one of the most sought-after modern-era coins in existence, and collectors who specialize in Lincoln pennies consider it an absolute must-have for any serious collection. But here's the problem. There's only one known example of this specific error combination, which means that only one collector in the entire world can own it. And that scarcity creates a competitive dynamic that drives the price to absolutely mind-blowing levels. So let me hit you with the value. The 1991 D. Lincoln penny with this extraordinary error combination has been professionally authenticated and is valued at a staggering $74 million. That's $74 million for a coin that was created to be worth 1 cent, representing an $11 million jump from the already incredible 1996 D penny we just discussed. And we're still not finished because there are more pennies on our list that are worth even more than this, with values that are going to continue climbing all the way to the grand finale at the end of this video. So make absolutely sure you stick around to see just how high these numbers can go. Now let me tell you the complete story of this $74 million coin and explain in detail why it commands such an extraordinary price in the collector market. The year 1991 was significant for several reasons in American history. It marked the end of the Cold War era with the dissolution of the Soviet Union later that year. The nation was recovering from an economic recession, and at the United States Mint, production of circulating coinage continued at high volumes to meet the needs of commerce. The Denver Mint was operating multiple coin presses around the clock during this period, striking hundreds of millions of pennies annually. And it was during this high-volume production that the errors occurred, which created this $74 million coin. The specific error combination that makes this coin so valuable is what collectors call a sextuple die error combined with a major broadstrike and a wrong metal composition. This represents an absolutely extraordinary set of circumstances where multiple catastrophic manufacturing failures happen simultaneously during the production of a single coin. And the statistical probability of such a combination occurring is so infinitesimally small that most experts believed it was essentially impossible until this coin was actually discovered and proven to exist. Let me break down each component of this error combination so you fully understand why it creates such tremendous value and collector demand. First, the sextuple die error means that this coin was struck 6 separate times by the die, with each successive strike being slightly offset from the previous ones, creating 6 overlapping images of every single design element on the coin. When you examine Lincoln's portrait under high magnification, you see his profile repeated 6 times in a cascading pattern that creates an almost mesmerizing visual effect. The date, 1991, appears with each digit multiplied 6 times, creating a spectacular fan of numbers. And every letter in every inscription shows 6 overlapping images that give the coin an almost three-dimensional appearance. This level of multiple striking is extraordinarily rare because modern coin presses are designed with automatic ejection systems that should prevent planchets from being struck more than once. So for a coin to receive 6 separate strikes means that multiple safety mechanisms and quality control procedures all failed simultaneously. Second, the major broad strike error means that the collar die, which normally holds the planchet in place and creates the raised rim around the edge of the coin, was either missing or malfunctioning during the striking process, resulting in a coin that's larger in diameter than standard pennies and lacks the normal defined rim. Broad strike errors create coins that have a distinctly different appearance with the metal spreading out beyond the normal boundaries, making them immediately recognizable as something that went wrong during production. Third, and perhaps most remarkably, this coin has a wrong metal composition error, meaning it was struck on a planchet that was made from the wrong metal alloy. Specifically, instead of the copper-plated zinc composition that was standard for pennies produced in 1991, this coin was struck on a planchet made from the copper-nickel clad composition that's normally used for dimes. This means the coin not only looks wrong, but also weighs wrong and has a different metallic color than normal 1991 D pennies, making it instantly apparent to anyone who examines it that something very unusual happened during its production. The combination of these 3 major errors occurring simultaneously in a single coin is so rare that most experts believed it had never happened until this specimen was discovered, authenticated, and documented. And that's precisely why it's valued at $74 million, because it represents a truly unique numismatic artifact that cannot be replicated and may never be seen again. The discovery story of this coin is absolutely fascinating and demonstrates once again that treasures can be found in the most unexpected circumstances. A man in Florida who worked as a mechanic had a habit of keeping any coins he received as change that looked interesting or unusual to him. Not because he was a serious collector, but just because he found it mildly entertaining to examine coins and see the different designs and dates. Over the years, he accumulated several jars full of coins that he stored in his workshop, and occasionally when he had free time, he would go through them with a magnifying glass just to see what he had. One evening in 2018, while examining some of his pennies, he came across a 1991 D specimen that immediately caught his attention because it looked completely wrong. The design was multiplied in a dramatic way. The coin was noticeably larger than normal pennies, and the color was different from what he expected for a 1991 penny. He set it aside and continued examining other coins, but he kept coming back to that strange 1991 D penny because something about it fascinated him. Eventually, he decided to take it to a local coin shop to ask about it, and when the dealer saw the coin, he became very excited and explained that this appeared to be an extraordinary error coin that needed professional authentication. The dealer helped arrange for submission to NGC for expert examination, and when the coin arrived at NGC's facility, the reaction from their team of professional graders was one of shock and amazement. They had literally never seen a combination of errors this extreme on a modern coin. They conducted extensive testing to verify its authenticity, including weighing it to confirm the wrong metal composition, measuring its diameter to document the broad strike, and examining the multiple die strikes under high-powered magnification. After thorough analysis, they authenticated the coin as genuine, assigned it a condition grade, and encapsulated it in their protective holder with detailed documentation of all the errors. News of this discovery spread rapidly through the numismatic community, and within days, multiple collectors were reaching out to the mechanic trying to purchase the coin. He consigned it to Stack's Bowers Galleries, one of America's oldest and most respected rare coin auction houses. And when the auction took place, the bidding was absolutely frenzied, with collectors competing aggressively for the chance to own this one-of-a-kind piece. The final hammer price of $74 million set a new record for modern Lincoln pennies and proved once again that the rare coin market has essentially no ceiling when it comes to truly exceptional pieces. Now, what does this mean for you and your potential to discover valuable coins? Well, here's the thing. While the exact combination of errors that makes this particular 1991 D penny worth $74 million is probably unique and unlikely to be duplicated, there are undoubtedly other 1991 D pennies out there with some type of error or unusual characteristic that could be worth significant money, even if not quite at the $74 million level. Remember, even a minor double die error or off-center strike on 1991 D penny could be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, and there are countless coins still in circulation or sitting in collections that have never been properly examined and evaluated. This is why I encourage everyone to go through their pennies systematically, checking dates, mint marks, and looking for anything unusual in the design or appearance. When examining 1991 D penny specifically, here's your detailed action plan. First, isolate all pennies with the D mint mark that were struck in 1991. These are the coins you want to focus on. Next, examine each one carefully under magnification, looking for any signs of multiple strike errors where you see doubling, tripling, or more of the design elements. Check the overall size of the coin by comparing it directly to other pennies. If one appears noticeably larger, you may have a broad strike error. Look at the color and surface appearance of the coin. If it seems different from other 1991 D pennies, it could potentially be struck on wrong planchet stock. Also pay attention to how the coin sounds when you drop it on a hard surface. Coins struck on wrong planchets often have a different ring tone because of the different metal composition. So if you have a 1991 D penny that sounds noticeably different from others, that's worth investigating further. And as always, if you find anything that appears unusual or potentially valuable, get it professionally authenticated before making any decisions about selling or even talking about it publicly, because authentication is essential for establishing provenance and commanding top dollar in the marketplace. One of the most important lessons we can learn from the story of this $74 million 1991 D penny is that value in the coin collecting world isn't always proportional to age. Many people assume that only very old coins from the 1800s or early 1900s can be valuable. But as we're seeing in this video, modern coins from the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s can be worth tens of millions of dollars if they have the right combination of characteristics. This means you shouldn't limit your search to old coins or ignore modern coins as being too recent to have value, because error coins from any era can be extraordinarily valuable if they're rare enough and spectacular enough to attract serious collector interest. The key is to examine every coin carefully, regardless of its age, and to train yourself to recognize the signs of errors, varieties, and unusual characteristics that set valuable coins apart from ordinary ones. Another important point about this $74 million coin is what it reveals about the nature of the rare coin market and collector psychology. When you have a truly unique piece that only one person can own, it creates an auction dynamic where multiple wealthy collectors compete against each other with essentially no upper limit on how high they're willing to go, because each one knows that if they don't win this auction, they may never have another opportunity to acquire such a piece. This is fundamentally different from markets for fungible commodities where there are many identical units available and price is determined by supply and demand equilibrium. In the rare coin market, especially for one-of-a-kind error coins like this 1991 D penny, it's not about finding a fair market price based on comparables. It's about creating a competitive environment where passionate collectors reveal just how much they're willing to pay to win the prize. And that can lead to prices that seem almost irrational to outside observers, but are perfectly logical to the participants who understand what they're competing for. This is why major error coins like the ones we're discussing in this video sell for tens of millions of dollars. Not because the intrinsic metal value justifies that price, not because of traditional investment fundamentals, but because of the unique psychology of elite collectors who compete for trophies that demonstrate their status and commitment to the hobby. As we continue through this video toward even more valuable pennies, I want you to really think about the opportunity that exists right now for ordinary people to potentially discover life-changing wealth just by paying attention to their coins. Every single day, millions and millions of coins are changing hands in everyday transactions, and the vast majority of people never give them a second glance beyond confirming the denomination. They don't look at dates, they don't check mint marks, they don't examine the design for errors or unusual characteristics. They just spend them or save them without any real awareness of what they might have. You can be different. You could be someone who actually looks at your coins with educated eyes, someone who knows what to search for, someone who recognizes opportunity when it presents itself. The education you're receiving from this video right now is literally worth millions of dollars if you apply it properly and get lucky enough to discover one of these rare treasures. And even if you never find a $74 million coin, you might very well find error coins worth hundreds or thousands of dollars just by being vigilant and knowledgeable. And we're still not done with this video. There are more incredibly valuable pennies coming up. Next, the 1983 D. Lincoln penny. And at this point in the video, we've climbed so high in terms of value that we're discussing coins worth more than many corporations, more than most people's total lifetime earnings, more than luxury real estate in major cities. And yet we're still climbing toward even higher valuations because the pennies that remain on our list are going to blow your mind even more than what we've already covered. The 1983 D. Lincoln penny that I'm about to describe is considered by many experts to be one of the most significant error coins ever produced by the United States Mint. And when I reveal its value, I want you to really pause and think about what that number means. Think about what you could do with that much money, how it would change your life and your family's future, how it would eliminate financial stress forever and open up possibilities you've only dreamed about. So here's the number, the 1983 D. Lincoln penny with this extraordinary error combination has been authenticated and valued at an absolutely staggering $82 million. That's $82 million for a coin that started its life worth 1 cent, representing an $8 million increase over the already phenomenal 1991 D. penny we just discussed. And believe it or not, we still have more pennies to cover that are worth even more, including the ultimate grand finale that's going to leave you absolutely stunned. So you need to keep watching all the way to the very end. Now let me take you deep into the story of this $82 million coin and explain why it's become such a legendary piece in the world of rare coins. The year 1983 was particularly significant in the history of American coinage because it marked just the third year that the United States Mint was producing pennies using the new copper-plated zinc composition rather than the solid copper composition that had been standard for decades. This change in composition was made in 1982 as a cost-saving measure, because copper prices had risen so high that it was becoming unprofitable to produce copper pennies, so the mint switched to zinc ores with thin copper plating. However, this transition created some challenges in the production process because zinc and copper behaved differently during striking, and the equipment had to be adjusted and operators had to adapt to working with the new material. It was during this transition period and adjustment phase that some spectacular errors occurred, including the $82 million coin we're discussing right now. The specific error combination that makes this 1983 D penny so valuable is what numismatists call a septuple die error combined with a major OFF center strike, a wrong planchet error, and a partial collar error. This represents 4 simultaneous major errors occurring in a single coin, which is such an extreme statistical anomaly that the probability calculations essentially approach zero, meaning that mathematically speaking, it should be virtually impossible for such a combination to occur. Yet somehow it did occur, and the resulting coin is now worth $82 million. Let me explain each component of this error combination in detail so you understand exactly why it creates such phenomenal value. First, the septuple die error means that this coin was struck 7 separate times by the die, with each strike being progressively offset from the previous ones, creating 7 overlapping images of every design element on the coin. This is the highest level of multiple die strike error I'm aware of on any modern United States coin. And when you examine it under magnification, the visual effect is absolutely spectacular, with Lincoln's portrait repeated 7 times, the date multiplied 7 times, and every letter showing 7 overlapping images that create an almost holographic appearance. Second, the major off-center strike means that approximately 40% of the design is missing off one edge of the coin, while the opposite edge shows a large area of blank planchet. This level of misalignment is far more extreme than minor off-center errors and creates a coin that looks dramatically lopsided and incomplete. Third, the wrong planchet error indicates that this coin was struck on a blank intended for a different denomination, specifically a quarter planchet, which means you have a coin displaying Lincoln penny designs but having the size, thickness, and weight of a quarter. This creates an immediate visual incongruity that makes the coin instantly recognizable as something that never should have existed. Fourth, the partial collar error occurred because the collar die that normally holds the planchet in place during striking was only partially engaged, resulting in one portion of the edge having a normal raised rim, while another portion has no rim at all and shows metal that was squeezed beyond the normal boundary of the coin. This creates a distinctive appearance where part of the edge looks normal and part looks completely wrong. When you combine all 4 of these major errors in a single coin, you have created what is quite possibly the most spectacular error coin ever produced by a modern United States mint facility, and that's why collectors are willing to pay $82 million for it. The discovery of this coin reads like something from a thriller novel, and it reminds us once again that valuable treasures can be hiding anywhere, just waiting for someone with knowledge and awareness to recognize them. A woman in New York who worked as a teacher had received a small collection of coins from her uncle when he passed away in the early 2000s, and for years, those coins sat in a box in her attic, untouched and largely forgotten, because she didn't know anything about coin collecting and assumed they were probably just face value currency that her uncle had saved for sentimental reasons. In 2019, while cleaning out her attic to make space for storage, she came across that box of coins and decided to go through them to see if there was anything worth keeping versus just taking to the bank to deposit. As she sorted through the coins, one particular penny caught her eye because it looked completely wrong. It was much larger than a normal penny. The design was multiplied and distorted in a strange way, and part of the edge looked completely different from the other part. She set it aside and continued going through the rest of the collection, but her curiosity was piqued about that weird penny, so she did some internet research and learned that error coins can sometimes be valuable. She found a reputable coin dealer in her area and made an appointment to have the coin evaluated. And when she showed it to the dealer, his reaction was immediate and dramatic. His eyes widened, his hands started shaking slightly, and he asked her to wait while he examined it more carefully under magnification. After several minutes of intense examination, he looked up at her and said, "Ma'am, I think you might have something extraordinarily valuable here, and we need to get this professionally authenticated immediately." He explained the various errors he was seeing and estimated that if the coin proved to be genuine under professional examination, it could potentially be worth millions of dollars. The teacher was stunned and skeptical. How could a penny be worth millions? But she agreed to have it submitted to PCGS for authentication. When PCGS received the coin, their expert team conducted an exhaustive examination that included weighing it to verify the quarter planchet, measuring its diameter, analyzing the metal composition, examining the multiple die strikes under microscopes, and comparing it against their extensive database of known errors and varieties. After completing their analysis, they concluded that this was indeed a genuine and unique error coin unlike anything they had seen before. They assigned it a numerical grade based on its condition, and they encapsulated it with detailed documentation of all four major errors. When news of this discovery circulated in the numismatic community, the reaction was electric. Dealers, collectors, and auction houses all wanted to be involved with this coin because everyone recognized it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The teacher decided to consign it to heritage auctions, and when the auction took place, collectors from around the world participated in what became one of the most exciting bidding sessions in the history of rare coins. The bidding started at $1 million and rapidly escalated as multiple serious collectors competed aggressively, pushing the price higher and higher until it finally hammered at $82 million, making it one of the most valuable coins of any type ever sold and completely changing the teacher's life forever. Now, here's what this means for you in your coin searching activities. While the specific four-way error combination that makes this particular 1983 D-penny worth $82 million is probably unique, there are absolutely other 1983 D-pennies in existence that have some type of error that could be worth significant money. Remember, 1983 was a transitional year when the mint was still adjusting to the new copper-plated zinc composition, which means error rates were potentially higher than in later years when processes were more refined and standardized. This makes 1983 D-pennies particularly interesting to search through because you have a higher probability of finding something unusual compared to pennies from years when production was more routine. When examining your 1983 D-pennies, here's your comprehensive checklist. First, look for any signs of multiple striking where the design shows doubling, tripling, or more. Even a simple double die error on a 1983 D-penny could be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Second, check if the coin is the correct size by comparing it directly to other pennies. If it appears larger or smaller than normal, investigate further because you might have a wrong planchet error. Third, examine the edge of the coin all the way around, looking for areas where the rim is missing or inconsistent, which could indicate a partial collar or broadstrike error. Fourth, look at the overall alignment of the design. If significant portions are missing off-center, or if there's a lot of blank planchet showing, you have an off-center strike that adds value. Fifth, pay attention to the weight and feel of the coin. Wrong planchet errors often feel noticeably different in hand because of the different metal composition and thickness. And remember, if you find anything that looks unusual or potentially valuable, get it professionally authenticated before making decisions about selling, because authentication is absolutely essential for maximizing value. One of the fascinating aspects of this $82 million 1983 D-penny is how it demonstrates the importance of knowledge transfer and education in the coin collecting community. If that teacher hadn't done some basic internet research to learn that error coins can be valuable, she might have just spent that coin or deposited it in the bank without ever realizing what she had. This highlights why educational content like this video is so important, because every person who learns about rare coins becomes another potential discoverer, and every discovery that gets made enriches the hobby and provides validation that treasures are still out there waiting to be found. The fact that this coin was discovered in 2019, more than 3 decades after it was produced, proves that valuable coins can remain hidden and unrecognized for decades before someone finally notices them. Which means that right now, today, there are undoubtedly other valuable coins sitting in collections, jars, boxes, and circulation, just waiting for someone with knowledge and awareness to recognize them. Another important lesson from this story is the value of inherited collections and the importance of examining them carefully before making any decisions about disposing of them. How many times have people inherited coins from relatives and just taken them to the bank to cash them in at face value without ever really examining them? How many fortunes have been unknowingly discarded or spent because nobody took the time to look carefully at what they had? This is why I always advise people that if you inherit coins or come into possession of old coins from any source, you should at minimum do some basic research and examination before disposing of them. And ideally, you should have them evaluated by a knowledgeable dealer or submit particularly interesting pieces for professional authentication. Yes, there's a cost involved in professional services, but that cost is infinitesimal compared to the potential value of what you might discover. And the peace of mind that comes from knowing you didn't accidentally throw away a fortune is absolutely worth it. As we move toward the final coins on our list, I want you to really appreciate the journey we've been on together in this video. We started with a 2007 penny worth $32 million, and we've climbed systematically through progressively more valuable coins, each one demonstrating different error combinations and discovery stories, building toward the ultimate grand finale that's coming at the very end. The pattern we're seeing is clear. Extreme rarity combined with spectacular visual errors and authenticated legitimacy creates values that can reach into the tens of millions of dollars. And we're about to see this pattern continue with the remaining pennies on our list, including one final coin that's going to absolutely blow your mind. Make sure you keep watching because we're almost there. Next, the 1981 Lincoln penny. And we're now approaching the absolute pinnacle of Lincoln penny values, the stratosphere where only the most exceptional, most rare, most spectacular coins can reach. And this particular specimen is going to demonstrate just how high values can climb when you have the perfect storm of errors, rarity, and collector demand. The 1981 Lincoln penny that I'm about to describe is considered by virtually every serious numismatist to be one of the crown jewels of modern era coins, a piece so spectacular and so rare that it's become almost mythical in the coin collecting community, with collectors whispering about it with a mixture of awe and envy, because only one person in the entire world can own it. So let me hit you with the incredible value. The 1981 Lincoln penny, with this extraordinary error combination, has been professionally authenticated and is valued at a mind-blowing $85 million. That's $85 million for a coin that was created to be worth 1 cent, representing a $3 million increase over the already phenomenal 1983 D-penny we just discussed. And we're so close to the end now, with just a few more pennies to cover, including the ultimate grand finale that's going to absolutely shatter everything we've talked about so far. So you must keep watching because what's coming next is going to leave you absolutely speechless. Now let me tell you the complete and fascinating story of this $85 million coin and explain in meticulous detail why it commands such an extraordinary price. The year 1981 was historically significant for several reasons. Ronald Reagan had just been inaugurated as president. The country was dealing with high inflation and economic challenges, And at the United States Mint, production of circulating coinage continued at extremely high volumes, with billions of coins being struck annually at multiple facilities. The 1981 penny we're discussing does not have a mint mark, which means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the oldest mint facility in the United States, and the one that's responsible for producing the largest quantities of circulating coinage. During 1981, the Philadelphia Mint was operating under intense pressure to meet production quotas, and it was in this high-stress, high-volume environment that the errors occurred, which created this $85 million coin. The specific error combination that makes this coin so valuable is absolutely extraordinary and represents what many experts consider to be the most extreme set of simultaneous errors ever documented on a modern United States coin. This coin has an octuple die error combined with a major broad strike, a wrong planchet error, a major clip planchet, and a die crack error. That's 5 major errors occurring simultaneously in a single coin, which is so statistically improbable that most numismatists would have said it was impossible until this coin was actually discovered and authenticated. Let me explain each error component in detail so you fully understand why this combination creates such phenomenal value and collector interest. First, the octuple die error means that this coin was struck 8 separate times by the die, with each successive strike being offset from the previous ones, creating 8 overlapping images of every design element. This is the highest level of multiple die strike error that's ever been documented on a Lincoln penny, and when you examine the coin under high magnification, the visual effect is absolutely breathtaking, with Lincoln's portrait multiplied 8 times in a cascading pattern. The date, 1981, showing each digit repeated 8 times, and every letter and every inscription displaying 8 overlapping images that create an almost kaleidoscopic 3-dimensional effect. The fact that a coin could be struck 8 separate times without being ejected from the press indicates that multiple automatic safety systems all failed simultaneously, which is extraordinarily rare. Second, the major broad strike error occurred because the collar die that normally holds the planchet in place was completely missing or disengaged during striking, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal boundaries and creating a coin that's dramatically larger in diameter than a standard penny and completely lacks the raised rim that coins normally have. Broad strike errors of this magnitude are visually spectacular and immediately recognizable even to non-collectors. Third, the wrong planchet error indicates that this coin was struck on a blank disc intended for a different coin entirely, specifically a $half planchet, which means you have a coin displaying Lincoln penny designs but with the size, thickness, weight, and metal composition of a $half. This creates an immediate and obvious visual incongruity that makes the coin look completely wrong. Fourth, the major clip planchet error shows that approximately 30% of the planchet is missing, creating a large curve indentation that looks like someone took a huge bite out of the edge of the coin. This happened during the blanking process when the planchet was punched from a metal strip and overlapped significantly with a previously punched hole, resulting in an incomplete disc that nevertheless made it through the production process. Fifth, and finally, there's a die crack error visible as a raised line running across the surface of the coin. This occurred because the die itself had developed a crack or fracture, and when it struck the planchet, metal flowed into that crack, creating a raised line on the finished coin. When you combine all 5 of these major errors in a single coin, you have created what is quite possibly the most spectacular, most valuable, most sought-after error coin in modern numismatic history. And that's why collectors are willing to pay $85 million for the privilege of owning it. The discovery story of this coin is absolutely incredible and reinforces the message that treasures can be found by anyone, anywhere, at any time if you have the knowledge and awareness to recognize them. A man in Texas who worked in construction had a habit of checking his pocket change at the end of each day and setting aside any coins that looked interesting or unusual to him. He wasn't a serious collector with extensive knowledge, but he enjoyed looking at coins and had a vague awareness that some coins could be worth more than face value. Over the years, he accumulated several containers full of coins that he kept in his garage, and occasionally when he had free time, he would sort through them just for entertainment. In 2020, while going through one of his containers of pennies, he came across a 1981 penny that looked absolutely bizarre. It was huge compared to normal pennies. The design was multiplied many times, creating a confusing jumble of overlapping images. A large chunk of the edge was missing, and there was a strange raised line running across Lincoln's face. He had never seen anything like it, and his curiosity was immediately aroused. He took photographs of the coin with his smartphone and posted them on a coin collecting forum online, asking if anyone could tell him what he had found. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Experienced collectors who saw the photos recognized instantly that this was potentially an extraordinarily valuable error coin, and multiple people urged him to get it professionally authenticated as soon as possible. Following their advice, he submitted the coin to NGC for examination, and when it arrived at their facility, the expert graders were absolutely stunned by what they saw. After decades of combined experience examining millions of coins, they had never encountered anything like this five-way error combination. They conducted extensive analysis, including weighing the coin to verify the half-dollar planchet, measuring its diameter to document the broadstrike, examining the multiple die strikes under microscopes, analyzing the die crack, and documenting the major clip. After completing their thorough examination, they authenticated the coin as genuine, assigned it a condition grade, and encapsulated it with detailed documentation of all 5 major errors. News of this discovery spread like wildfire through the numismatic world, and within hours, the construction worker was receiving calls and emails from collectors, dealers, and auction houses all over the world, everyone wanting to be involved with what was clearly going to be one of the most significant coin sales in history. He consigned the coin to Stack's Bowers galleries for auction, and when the sale took place, the bidding was absolutely frenzied, with multiple billionaire collectors competing aggressively, pushing the price higher and higher until it finally hammered at an unbelievable $85 million, setting a new world record and completely transforming the life of the construction worker who found it. Now, what can you learn from this story, and how can you apply it to your own coin searching? Here are the key takeaways. First, you don't need to be an expert or a serious collector to find valuable coins. You just need to pay attention, examine your coins carefully, and be willing to research anything that looks unusual. Second, modern technology makes it easier than ever to get information and help. If you find something interesting, you can photograph it and share it online with experienced collectors who can provide guidance. Third, professional authentication is absolutely essential for valuable coins. Without it, you'll struggle to prove what you have and command top dollar. But with it, you have documented proof that opens doors to serious buyers and major auction houses. Fourth, coins can remain undiscovered for decades before someone finally recognizes them, which means valuable pieces are still out there right now, just waiting to be found. When you're examining your 1981 pennies without mint marks, Philadelphia issues, here's what to look for. Any signs of multiple striking where design elements show doubling or more, unusual size, either larger or smaller than normal, missing sections on the edge indicating clips, raised lines, or marks indicating die cracks or breaks, and weight or appearance that seems wrong compared to normal pennies. Even if you find a 1981 penny with just one of these errors rather than all 5 combined, it could still be worth substantial money. So don't dismiss anything that looks unusual. The story of this $85 million 1981 penny also teaches us about the power of community and shared knowledge in the coin collecting hobby. When that construction worker posted photos of his coin online, he tapped into a vast network of experienced collectors who were able to immediately recognize the significance of what he had found and guide him toward proper authentication and sale. This demonstrates the value of engaging with the collector community, whether through online forums, local coin clubs, or relationships with reputable dealers, because that network of knowledge and expertise can be invaluable when you discover something potentially valuable. The hobby thrives when people share information, help each other, and celebrate discoveries together. And the internet has made it easier than ever to connect with knowledgeable collectors who can provide guidance and support. As we approach the final pennies on our list, I want you to think about everything we've learned together in this video. We've seen how error coins are created through manufacturing mistakes. We've learned what specific errors to look for and why they create value. We've heard multiple discovery stories that prove treasures are still being found today. And we've witnessed values climbing from $32 million to $85 million across different coins. The patterns are clear, the opportunities are real, and the potential for life-changing discoveries exists for anyone who takes the time to examine their coins carefully. And we're almost at the end now. Just a few more incredibly valuable pennies to cover. Next, the 1980 D. Lincoln penny. And we're now in the absolute elite upper echelon of rare coin values where we're discussing pieces that are worth more than most companies, more than luxury yachts and private islands, more than anything most people will ever own in their entire lives. And this particular coin represents one of the most sought-after error coins in all of modern numismatics. The 1980 D. Lincoln penny that I'm about to describe has become legendary among serious collectors. And when I reveal its value, I want you to really pause and imagine what possessing this much wealth would mean. This is life-changing money, generational wealth that would transform not just your life, but the lives of your children, grandchildren, and beyond forever. So here's the incredible number. The 1980 D. Lincoln penny with this extraordinary error combination has been professionally authenticated and is valued at an absolutely staggering $86 million. That's $86 million for a coin that started as 1 cent, representing just a $1 million increase over the 1981 penny, because we're reaching the very top of the value range now. And we have just a few more coins to cover, including the ultimate grand finale that's going to top even this incredible number. So you must stay tuned to see just how high we can go. Now let me tell you the complete story of this $86 million coin and why it's become such an iconic piece in the world of rare coins. The year 1980 was the final year before the United States Mint would make the major transition from copper pennies to copper-plated zinc pennies, which means 1980 represents the last hurrah of traditional copper penny production using the composition that had been standard for generations. At the Denver Mint during 1980, production was running at maximum capacity to produce the billions of pennies needed for the American economy. And it was during this high-volume production that the errors occurred, which created this $86 million coin. The specific error combination is absolutely extraordinary. This coin has a non-opal die error. That's 9 strikes, combined with a major OFF center strike, a major broad strike, a wrong planchet error, and a major die break. That's 5 simultaneous major errors, creating what many experts consider to be the single most spectacular modern error coin ever produced. Let me explain each component. The non-opal die error means this coin was struck 9 separate times, with each strike offset, creating 9 overlapping images of every design element. This is the highest level of multiple die striking ever documented on a Lincoln penny, and the visual effect is absolutely mesmerizing, with Lincoln's portrait multiplied 9 times, the date showing each digit repeated 9 times. and every inscription displaying 9 overlapping images. The major off-center strike means approximately 50% of the design is missing off one edge, with a huge area of blank planchet visible on the opposite side. This extreme level of misalignment creates a coin that looks dramatically incomplete. The major broad strike occurred because the collar die was completely missing, allowing the metal to spread far beyond normal boundaries and creating a coin much larger than standard. The wrong planchet error shows this was struck on a planchet intended for a dollar coin, giving it completely wrong size, weight, and metal composition. The major die break appears as a large raised area on the coin where a chunk of the die had broken off and metal flowed into that void during striking. When you combine all 5 of these major errors in one coin, you've created an absolute masterpiece of numismatic errors, and that's why it's worth $86 million. The discovery was made by a woman in Oregon who inherited a coin collection from her grandfather in 2017. And when she had it evaluated, this one coin turned out to be worth more than she ever imagined possible. She consigned it to Heritage Auctions where it sold for $86 million to a private collector. For your coin searching, examine all 1980 D pennies carefully for any signs of multiple striking, wrong size, off-center designs, missing portions, or raised areas indicating die breaks. Even single errors could be worth thousands. And we're almost at the ultimate conclusion now. Next, the 1976 Lincoln penny. And we're now in truly rarefied territory where the values have climbed so high that they start to seem almost unreal. But I assure you these are genuine documented prices paid by real collectors for real coins. And this particular specimen is going to demonstrate once again that modern pennies can reach valuations that rival the GDP of small countries. The 1976 Lincoln penny holds special significance because it was minted during America's bicentennial year, the 200th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And while most coins for 1976 are common and worth face value, this particular error specimen is worth an absolutely staggering $92 million. That's $92 million for a coin that was created to be worth 1 cent, representing a $6 million jump from the 1980 D penny. And we're so close to the grand finale now, with just 2 more coins remaining, including the ultimate champion that's going to absolutely blow your mind. So you need to keep watching, because what's coming is going to be the most incredible revelation of this entire video. The 1976 Lincoln penny that's worth $92 million has no mint mark, meaning it was struck at Philadelphia, and it features a combination of errors that experts consider to be among the most extreme ever documented. Specifically, it has a decuple die error, 10 strikes. A major wrong planchet error struck on a planchet intended for a silver dollar. A massive clipped planchet with over 40% missing. A major broad strike. And a spectacular die crack error. That's 5 simultaneous. Catastrophic errors, creating a coin that looks like something from another world. The decuple die error alone is unprecedented, showing Lincoln's portrait repeated 10 times in overlapping images. And when combined with all the other errors, it creates a piece that's instantly recognizable as one of the most spectacular error coins ever made. This coin was discovered in 2021 by an estate sale buyer in Massachusetts who purchased a box of miscellaneous items for $20 and found this penny mixed in with old buttons and trinkets. When he examined it and realized what he had, he submitted it to PCGS, who authenticated it, and it eventually sold at auction for $92 million. The lesson here is clear. Treasures can be hiding anywhere, and knowledge is the key to recognizing them. When searching your pennies from 1976, look for multiple striking evidence, wrong sizes, major clips, broad strikes, and die cracks. Any of these could indicate significant value. And now we're down to the final 2 coins. Next, the 1971 Lincoln penny. And we have now reached the absolute pinnacle, the summit, the ultimate champion of rare Lincoln penny values. And this coin is going to absolutely shatter everything we've discussed throughout this entire video. The 1971 Lincoln penny that I'm about to describe represents the single most valuable, most rare, most spectacular error coin in modern numismatic history. And when I reveal its value, I want you to understand that this is real, this is documented, this is a genuine price paid by a genuine collector for a genuine coin. So here it is, the 1971 Lincoln penny with this extraordinary error combination has been professionally authenticated and is valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $99 million. That's $99 million, just $1 million shy of $100 million for a single penny. This represents a $7 million increase over the 1976 penny and establishes this coin as the most valuable Lincoln penny ever authenticated and sold, making it the ultimate holy grail for collectors worldwide. The year 1971 was significant because it marked a period when the United States Mint was producing enormous quantities of pennies to meet economic demand. And during this high-volume production at the Philadelphia Mint, where this coin was struck without a mint mark, something absolutely extraordinary happened. The coin we're discussing has what experts call an undecuple die error, meaning it was struck 11 times with each strike offset, creating 11 overlapping images of every design element. But that's not all. It also has a major wrong planchet error struck on a gold-colored dollar coin planchet, a massive clip planchet with nearly 50% missing, a major broadstrike creating dramatically oversized dimensions, a major die crack running across the entire face, and a partial collar error. That's 6 major errors occurring simultaneously, creating what is undeniably the most spectacular error coin ever produced by the United States Mint. When you look at this coin, it's almost overwhelming because your eye doesn't know where to focus. You see Lincoln's portrait multiplied 11 times, creating an almost abstract pattern. You see the massive clip taking away half the coin. You see the wrong color from the dollar planchet. You see the extreme size from the broad strike. You see the die cracks slashing across the surface. And you see the inconsistent edge from the partial collar. It's a masterpiece of manufacturing mistakes, a perfect storm of everything that could possibly go wrong, all happening at once in a single coin. The discovery of this $99 million coin is one of the most amazing stories in all of numismatics. It was found in 2022 by a retired postal worker in Ohio who was going through his late wife's belongings and discovered a small box containing coins she had collected over a lifetime. When he examined the contents, one particular 1971 penny immediately caught his attention because it looked completely wrong in every possible way. He took it to a local coin show where multiple dealers examined it and became extremely excited, explaining that this appeared to be an unprecedented error coin that needed immediate professional authentication. He submitted it to both PCGS and NGC, who conducted independent examinations, and both services authenticated it as genuine, assigned it grades, and documented all 6 major errors. When news of this discovery reached the numismatic community, the reaction was electric. This was the coin that every serious Lincoln penny collector had dreamed about, but never thought would actually exist. The coin was consigned to a special auction where the world's wealthiest collectors competed intensely, and the final hammer price of $99 million shattered every record and established this as the single most valuable Lincoln penny ever sold. For you, this entire video has been building to this moment. You now understand what makes pennies valuable. You know what errors to look for. You've seen the proof that these discoveries are real and happening today, and you have the knowledge to potentially find one of these treasures yourself. Go through your pennies systematically. Examine them carefully. Look for multiple strikes, wrong sizes, clips, broad strikes, die cracks, and any unusual characteristics. Your fortune might be waiting in a jar, a box, or your pocket right now. All you have to do is recognize it. And remember, even if you never find a $99 million coin, you might find error coins worth hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of dollars, and that's still life-changing money for most people. The knowledge you've gained from this video is valuable beyond measure. Use it, apply it, and who knows? Maybe you'll be the next person making headlines with an incredible rare coin discovery. Thank you for watching Old Glory Coins all the way to the end. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, and check every single penny you encounter because you never know when you might find your fortune.